Thank you, Mr. Phillips. I am going to recognize myself at this point, and I wanted to start with to go back to a pretty basic question to you, Mr. Morell, and that is, what is the standard for including a piece of information in the president's daily brief? It's more than just that the information is true or likely true. It has to be important. Isn't that the case?
Yes, sir. It has to be important to the national security of the United States of America.
Right. So if this information was included in the president's daily brief, that would mean that the intelligence community made a judgment that it was important enough for the president to know. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
a fair assessment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we don't actually know why the intelligence briefer chose not to orally brief. So any of that is speculative at this point.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, when something is important and it comes to the White House, but there are gaps in the analysis or potentially differences of opinion about the level of confidence, then one of the things the White House can do is to go back to the intelligence community and ask for a deeper dive. And we know that in this case, that did happen, that Mr. Radcliffe produced a sense of the community memorandum upon being asked by the White House. But what strikes me as odd about that is that it seems as if that if a White House, if a national security advisor felt a real desire to get to the bottom of a piece of information like this, wouldn't he have asked for that deeper dive immediately? In this case, several months ago when it was first brought to the attention of the White House?
Sir, I would think so. I don't understand the timing in this case, but yes, I would think so.
Okay. And are you concerned that the timing might have been related to the media reports rather than to a sense of urgency to get to the bottom of the intelligence?
Sir, I just don't know the timing, so I can't answer that.
Understood. And let's get back to the more important question of the response here. Now, we've heard from Secretary Pompeo. I wish he were here to tell us in person, but we've heard from him that he has raised Russian support for the Taliban on several occasions with his counterpart, I assume Mr. Lavrov, in the Russian government. Ms. Wallander, knowing that, would you say that President Putin would take such expressions of concern seriously if they're only coming from the Secretary of State and they're never coming directly to him from the President of the United States?
One of the things that is clear is that the Russian leadership pays close attention to what it's hearing from different senior levels from the US government. And when they get mixed messages, they use that to their advantage and cherry pick the messages they want to hear from the messages they don't want to hear. So I think it does matter that if it is the case, and I don't know if it is the case, that they have not heard a consistent, clear, strong message on concern in this area from several senior leaders of the U.S. government. They would read into that that there isn't they don't need to worry about it, and it's not a strong U.S. expression of concern.
And they do recognize the president speaks for the United States above all others. I mean, we do know, we don't know exactly what was discussed, but we do know, because it's been publicly reported, that President Trump has spoken to President Putin on the phone something like a half dozen times in the last couple of months. That in and of itself is a little bit odd or out of the ordinary, wouldn't you say, from your experience?
The frequency of calls isn't necessarily unusual. President Obama spoke frequently with Vladimir Putin during the escalation in the Ukraine crisis in order to be able to let him know we knew what was happening and what we were planning to do to counter Russian actions. So the frequency itself might not be. It would depend on what the content of the message was.
Right. But if Pompeo is saying, I'm concerned about what you're doing in Afghanistan, and the president is saying, I'd love to share intelligence with you on counterterrorism, I want to invite you to the G7, I want to have a good relationship with you, and can you believe this Russia hoax and all of that stuff, how seriously do you think Mr. Putin would take any expressions of concern from the State Department?
If that were the content of the messages, that would be a very mixed message, and the expressions of concern from the State Department would not rise to the level of serious.
Okay. Thank you so much. My time is up, and I'd like to recognize Mr. Allred. Thank you.